Hi, I'm Phil Kurz, contributing editor at TV Tech and TVTech.com. I'm with Bill Oakley, Associate Director of Global Product Management for Pro Audio at Shure. We're here to talk about some of the latest audio trends like immersive audio and how the Shure DCA901 digital audio microphone array is helping broadcasters keep pace with the growing demands for better audio. Bill, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
With Dolby Atmos and AC4 encoding continue to gain momentum, it seems the future of audio for video is immersive. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's more so now than ever, especially with consumers having more devices to consume it, and producers of the content having more ways of delivering directly to those consumers.
And what changes will be necessary to support immersive audio from a production point of view?
Well, obviously, from an audio standpoint, first thing is going to be the capture. There are a number of tools, anywhere from just traditional microphones that you have to lay out in a very specific way based on the zone or the environment you're capturing, and of course, time aligning all that, which is a little problematic. It can be a lot of effort, a lot of work, which is why a lot of people don't do it, and those who do it need to do it very well. Um, but there's also some tools that are coming out at various levels, both at the prosumer level and the pro end level, that do kind of make it easier to do that capture, not only for live immersive, but also for post production. Things like ambisonic microphones, for example, is a very known way of doing it. And then we have also our array mics, which is another way of doing it. Again, depending on what the immersive experience and the environment the person who's capturing is trying to achieve.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the DCA 901 and what an array mic is? What does that mean?
So, an array mic, technically, you could argue any microphone that has two or more capsules is an array mic, like a mid-side stereo microphone like Shure's VP88, one could argue is an array microphone. But in the context today of what we do, our array microphones are basically a microphone form factor it's built up of multiple little microphones. In this case, we're using small MEMS microphones. In the DCA 901 specifically, there's 78 of them. In some of the other array products that Shure makes, there's more. And there's also linear and planar, which are two different dimensional form factors. But essentially, what's happening in an array microphone is audio is hitting all of those capsules, and the audio is then going through an algorithm that is creating a polar pattern. Um, normal microphones, acoustic analog microphones do that through different methods of acoustic treatment with diaphragms, multiple diaphragms. In the array world, they're usually a digital algorithm that's running, and it's creating a pattern with math involved in how the audio is hitting those different microphones at different times. In the 901's example, those 78 microphones all go into the algorithm, and out comes a audio channel, or actually 8 audio channels that are effectively a shotgun beam or a flashlight beam that can be steered also with the algorithm anywhere in the half space the array is facing. So it's basically an invisible or virtual flashlight beam. And with that comes some pretty creative things that people can do.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the flexibility that having so many elements and steerable lobes gives uh, audio engineers when they are in the planning phase and in the executing phase of audio production?
Yeah, so like I said, it has 8 beams. So physically, the product is only like less than 2 inches thick and 13 inches in diameter. So it's like a small shower head or something like that. So to create these beams, it doesn't have any physical space that it's occupying or protruding out from its surface. A normal shotgun microphone would be almost 2 feet long, a long shotgun, and to put 8 of them in a single point in space and mount them would be unrealistic and problematic, and you'd have tons of XLR cables. It's really a mess, and that's why no one does it. So in this case, it's just one Ethernet cable. Your control, power, and audio is all on that cable. The lobes are invisible, and you can steer them anywhere you want. What that means for people who are doing production is they can put this microphone in a spot that is better or more conducive for what they're trying to capture without having any of the physicality of an analog microphone filling that space. It can be very low profile. Average people who are standing under it probably wouldn't know it's a microphone. And you can get pretty creative then in where you can put these, and then what you can do as far as capturing a space from above, from the side, from a distance. Physics is not changing. The rules of physics, we like to say, is always the same. We haven't found a way to change physics, but it does allow some creative things as far as locations and mic placement to make it work.
I was wondering if you might be able to give us a few examples of how it can be used in different situations. Say, for instance, well, I'll throw a few out there and we'll just go one at a time. How about in live sports?
Yeah, actually, live sports is where we started with this technology when we took it out of the conferencing space. We started with professional basketball, mainly because we had relationships with some engineers who were already playing around with this technology. And it did some really, really great things. If you think about how basketball is captured today, from an audio standpoint, typically they have a shotgun mic under each basketball hoop, and that one microphone is kind of covering the whole area within the 3-point line. We call that the key. It's worked great, but the problem with that is not only are you capturing whatever basketball sounds, dribbling, squeaks are in that coverage zone by the lobe of the shotgun mic, you're also capturing a lot of noise, whether it's crowd, the PA, just the room noise. And those engineers are having a tough time trying to pull those sounds out of the mix above the ambient noise of things they don't want. So when we put this technology in the same place as those shotgun mics, which needed to meet regulation for basketball so players don't get injured, and then we took those lobes, invisible lobes, and fanned them out across that same space. We essentially took that one big piece of pie that was done with the shotgun mic and chopped it up into little slices. And then leveraging the auto mixer that's built into the product, it would turn on the pizza slice based on where activity was, where basketball activity was. So what happens then, you're only hearing audio from that little tight slice, and you're getting less audio or no audio from the ambience, whether it's crowd or PA, that you don't want. So you end up getting a little bit better signal to noise of those sounds, and the engineer is getting a better product. The customer is getting a better product on the other end. And I was just doing this last night at a game, and if you do it right and you get your level set and you bring your crowd back in through other microphones that may be in the venue, it kind of just handles it naturally, and the engineer doesn't have to work as hard to turn down a microphone because it's just feeding noise, and then bring it back up because now there's action near that microphone. They can kind of get a good balance, and the product just kind of helps them, make a better product.
Let's go through a couple of other environments. How about in a broadcast studio? Do you have any examples where it might fit?
Yeah, we had great success there as well. The initial thought for putting in a broadcast studio was to have it as a backup. So today, live television, news, sports shows are done close miking, they call it. So they literally put a lavalier on their talent and a body pack, and it's a wireless frequency that's then transmitting around. Sometimes those shows can get interrupted with RF problems, and they don't have a backup. Like the mic goes down, and there's no quality way to get audio for the show to continue, especially since many of these shows are live to air. So we experimented with one of our broadcast partners, and we put the array above the talent area, whether it's a table they're sitting at or a green screen room that they're walking across the room. And turns out they got pretty darn good audio, so good with a little EQing and tweaking that that particular customer partner of ours is actually producing a couple shows as the primary capture, which allows them to free up those frequencies for that smaller studio so that the larger studio that has a more important show, not that shows are more or less important, but so that larger studio can have those wireless frequencies that it really needs. And the smaller studio is getting a great show just off of this microphone. You could argue a TV studio is kind of like a conference room in a sense. It's a controlled space, but unlike a conference room, there's a lot more junk going on in the ceiling, a lot of lighting, a lot of trussing, a lot of other production gear, a lot of fans. So it can be a more hostile environment, and the product actually performs really well.
You've brought up a conference room on a couple of occasions here. You might want to tell us a little bit about what the relationship is between the 901 and other microphones that you've done in the conference setting.
Yeah, I mean, while this technology at Shure was invented actually in 1938 by Ben and Bauer, the technology at the time didn't really allow for it to be made. It wasn't until the late 2010s, I guess I want to say, teens. I can't remember when it was, teens, I want to say, that Shure started playing with it again and got some working samples. And it just happened that Shure chose to go after the conferencing market with this to get those microphones off the table, have people stop drilling holes into their really expensive boardroom tables, and put the microphones on the ceiling. And not just have cables hanging down like some places have, but have it be clean, have it be supported by an IT department that can understand bringing things onto an IP network, and then patch that into the codecs for far and speak. And of course, when COVID happened, there was a lot of far end meetings happening. Yeah, so Shure's done very well with it. We are very happy with that. And then we started experimenting with the technology outside of the conferencing space. The technology certain isn't, owned or belongs in the conferencing space. Microphones are designed for one thing and oftentimes used in so many other ways it wasn't intended for. That's no different here. So the 901 was our first, like, let's pull this technology over into the pro audio. We call it ENC large space. We had great success. And we're excited that we've got many other ideas that we're looking forward to executing. It's a whole new world, and we've got some crazy ideas, and we're hoping people like it.
We'll get back to the applications in a second, but you brought up a couple of other things here that I was curious about. You said there's an automatic audio mixing that goes on, and
Yeah.
how does that help an audio engineer when it comes to actually controlling this? Because it seems like it'd be very challenging to have so many lobes and elements that they might have to control manually. So wouldn't that be a little overwhelming? And how does the automatic nature of the mixer help?
Yeah, auto mixing is not a new thing, but it's been around for a while to help an engineer. It's basically acting as a sub mixer. That could be done with a physical person, but a good auto mixer can handle it and allow you to not have to sit there and control microphones up and down and gain, in particularly when someone's not speaking, or there's, you don't want to capture the audio on a particular microphone, so it will turn it down and let the audio on another microphone take precedence. So it's basically a way of kind of controlling noise and making sure you're only providing turning up the gain on a microphone that you want. And yes, when you're trying to bring this type of technology into this meeting space, into this conferencing space, or into a pro audio space, you don't want to burden people with more work. So in the current sense, if we go back to basketball, they were using a single shotgun for one side of the court and a single shotgun on the other side. So that's two channels of audio, two faders. It wouldn't make sense for us to come around and say, hey, let's use this product, and instead of two faders or two channels, you're not going to have 16 audio channels. Like, that's not making their lives better. They've got enough enough things going on, enough audio channels. They don't need more. So the auto mixer basically handles that submix and still provides that one audio channel out, that one fader hitting their console, and it's effectively a drop in then from a workflow standpoint. Of course, you still have to configure the microphone and set it up, but once that's done, the auto mixer kind of does everything from there, and the engineer can still run their mix as they would with a traditional microphone.
Yeah, and you brought up setup, which has been rattling around the back of my mind. It seems like you have more control there. If you put this, you set it up, you put it in place, then you can steer these pickup lobes, these flashlights, as you say, these beams, coverage beams, around.
Yeah.
Does it make setup? Why don't you compare it to a conventional approach to setting up mics?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. A traditional microphone, like a shotgun, like we'll keep coming back to that. You can physically point it, and you know, like I'm pointing it here, therefore it's going to pick up audio there. Here you don't have that physical visual cue to work off of, so you do need to use the software, the onboard software that we're currently using, to visualize your space, visualize your microphone, and then visualize the lobes and how that correlates from the microphone's location to where you're going to want to point it.
And you also brought up that it's sort of a one cable solution, and as part of that answer, you said there's IP connectivity there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what that brings to production planning and performance?
Yeah, so it is IP a product. So what that means is with one Ethernet cable, you can power it. It uses PoE standard 0.
Mhm.
So that gives the power to the product. You then can get control data by accessing the product remotely. We use an onboard web browser that's served off of it. So open it up in your Chrome on your PC, laptop, PC, Mac, or whatever it is. And then when it comes to audio, we're leveraging Dante and AES-67, which is being sent out of the product. A lot of productions, especially I'd say in the last 10 years, are definitely using some sort of digital audio. Dante has grown quite a bit. I would argue 15 years ago, Dante may not have been as prolific in broadcast space as it is today. But AES-67 has been around. And for the other digital audio formats that are out there, there's converters to go back and forth and transport it over fiber. There's transport over MADI. So all these different transport protocols can be converted to whatever you're trying to ultimately get it to. So we're a pretty good drop in to what people are already used to using. And then, yeah, it's just audio over IP. Nice one, a cheap cable, Ethernet, that's pretty much consumable. You could set it up, run everything you need, use the product, and then leave the cable behind if you don't have time to strike it, and then take the microphone down. And if you are doing a show where you're, set, use, strike, rinse, wash, repeat, as long as the microphone is put in the same location, everything will come back up in its previous setting. So pretty much the setup is just needed for that first time or that first time in a new environment, and you're good to go every time, just like a regular microphone.
And I wanted to get back to some of the live applications, just a couple other things here. Does it have any applications in reality TV production?
Yeah, there's been a number of shows. I can't mention them all here, but we are aware of a number of shows in the past and currently that are using it for reality television. Um, One of there's been a few benefits, but one of the ones that comes to mind most is because this doesn't look like a microphone, because this is mounted in the ceiling above people who, for all intents and purposes, think it's a speaker or they think it's an air vent. What results is people don't know they're being listened to. And that can be a good and a bad thing. But from a reality television standpoint, that's a good thing. From a director, producer standpoint, if people don't know they have a lavalier plugged on that's not connected to them, they think they're not being heard, and their commentary and their conversations may be a little bit more colorful, a little bit more honest. So it does create a different a creative product for producers and directors when they put these microphones around and are able to listen in on their reality subjects. It's been used for a few TV shows quite successfully, and yeah, we've had some really good comments from those production folk.
And here's a bit of a curveball for you. Does using the 901 bring anything special to the post-production process following the shoot in some of these situations?
Yes and no. I mean, just because it has the 8 lobes doesn't mean you have to use them. I can think of a few examples where maybe 2 or 3 lobes is sufficient to capture what you need for live broadcast, and then you can use the other lobes to maybe steer in other areas in the space that maybe you wouldn't use that audio live, but you would want to record and capture what's happening. So take, for example, in sports or collegiate sports, basketball even, you're not allowed to really have microphones pointed at the players' benches or at the coaches. So the broadcasters don't put microphones there, and you would not steer this microphone there if you were the responsible broadcaster. But if you were the NCAA or a league that still wanted to have that information for highlights or post production, marketing purposes, if you're the owner operator of the team and the hardware, you could steer a lobe over there and capture that and record it for potential future use. So there's things like that could happen.
So it sounds like the 901 really has an important role to play in immersive audio. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about where the product is or where it's going?
Yeah, I mean, we even hard coded a preset into the product specifically for SMPTE 5.1. And that was our goal of our attempt at really explaining or pushing that you can use this as a 5.1 capture product. Um, auto positioning the lobes to make sure you're getting your right LFE and mid side and rear and all that kind of channels that you need as a starting point. Obviously, based on the space, you'd want to tweak that, but it is hard for a lot of people to know the right orientation to point normal microphones, much less this array. So we did put a preset that people have been using, and we also know there's other shows. I know there's a show happening next week that's going to be new and live that we were working with the engineer on to configure this to capture his 5.1 for that show based on where he needed to put the microphone. Yeah, it's going to be used more and more, and if we're doing our jobs correctly and the product's working properly, the audience shouldn't see it, and the people at home won't know how it's done. But it does make the engineer and the production folks' lives easier to get it set up and get a good quality product.
Well, that's all we have time for. Special thanks to Bill Oakley for bringing us up to date on immersive audio developments and the DCA 901 digital microphone array. Be sure to check out my articles and those of my colleagues at tvtech.com. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.